I guess I'll just open it with the story time. I just got back. I just got back from a little road trip. So we've seen these headlines for the past, I don't know, months of
years.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, years.
Tesla's going to open their superchargers to non-Tesla EVs. And in the US, there's two kinds of electric cars. There's Teslas and there's all the rest. Teslas can charge on Tesla superchargers and also on public chargers for backup. All the rest charge on public chargers all the time. And we've talked about the reliability issues with those, the charging experience with those not being ideal. If you're buying a $170,000 Lucid Air and your best bet is like crossing your fingers that hopefully the Electrify America charger works, it just doesn't seem to match up. So, you know, Teslas have been the ones that I largely recommend in the US, but today, as of the recording, for the first time, that is now different because there are some select Tesla superchargers in the US.
10, I think, right
10
now.
or something under a dozen that have been retrofitted with this new thing called the Magic Dock. And you can officially charge on them with a CCS car with a built-in adapter. So today I went out with the Rivian R1T up to the closest one, which is actually like an hour and a half upstate into New York. And I checked it out and I saw how it went. So here's how it went. I got there, I had like 90 miles of range left, perfect. I opened the Tesla app and it shows like a map of the superchargers in your area. You pick the one that's on the map and you say, okay, which charge port am I at? Because with a Tesla, you know, you just unplug it and plug it into your car and it's plug and play. It's so seamless. With this one, your car's not talking to the Tesla supercharger, so you kind of have to do a little extra work. You tell it, I'm at stall 1B. You hit the button, you hear a little click, and it's actually unlocked. When you pull it out, the head of the plug has an adapter on it already that works with CCS, and you plug it in, and then it's plug and play. It just starts working, and all of the action happens in the Tesla app. So there's no screen on the stall. There's no extra work. You have a Tesla account. It all happens in the app. And that, for me, worked fine. Like, that, to me, makes the Rivian a better truck for me to own in this area because now I can actually reliably move around on Tesla superchargers that are reliable. It's not as fast as a perfectly working Electrify America charger would have been. I maxed out at about 155 kilowatts, which, for those of you who know, a V3 supercharger working with a Tesla will go up to 250 kilowatts. And a perfect condition Electrify America charger with the right car may briefly hit 300 or 350 kilowatts, which is crazy fast charging. But you know, it was fast. It was fast charging. It worked. That's the bottom line. So that was what was exciting. And I was about to turn around and leave, but I did want to stay for a little bit and just like fill up because I had to drive back here. So I went and grabbed a Dunkin' Donuts muffin and I came back. And when I came back, there was a Lucid Air, 2 more Teslas, and an F-150 Lightning.
Dang.
Nice.
Like, oh,
Wow, that was
that
fast.
got really interesting.
Yeah.
So what's happening is this is what I think is going to be the most interesting about this, which is like, okay, cool. More EVs are more, you know, possible to road trip with. But every single Tesla has a charge port at the back left corner of the car since they started making them. And the point of that is Tesla superchargers have the exact perfect cable length so that when you back up into the spot, it just reaches and you plug in and it's the shortest cable for the fastest charge and everything's optimized. And that's great. But all these other EVs all have the charging port in various different spots. I pulled up with the Rivian, which you might not know, has a charging port on the front left corner. So instead of backing in, I pull into a spot, but I am technically in the wrong spot for the one that I'm charging at. So if you backed in, you would have been in one spot because I pulled in forward, I was in the wrong spot for that car. Which is fine if it's just one of me, but what if more show up, right? So the Lucid Air shows up. The Lucid Air has it at the front left as well. The F-150 Lightning shows up. It has it at the front left as well. And so now what happens is when the F-150 Lightning showed up, there were actually 3 spots available. Only one of them was it possible for it to charge at because only one of them had the cable available on the correct side for that car.
And then at that point, are those other 2 spots not available for even Teslas? Because it's used, or one of those spots doesn't work for a regular Tesla.
I think I'm gonna have to check my video, but in the moment, if another non-Tesla pulled up, they could not charge. I think Teslas would have been able to charge.
Well, so Okay, so it's 3 empty spots next to each other, right? Assuming the F-150 pulls in the middle spot.
Yeah.
Then it's using the charger from the left of it, correct? Mm-hmm. So that left spot's now
taking it from where a Tesla would have been.
So even a Tesla in that left spot couldn't charge.
Right. Yeah.
And then in the right spot, a Tesla could charge.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically the idea is if it's all Teslas, you'll maximize all the spots. As soon as one non-Tesla shows up and parks anywhere, it can throw off.
Yeah.
It goes from 8 superchargers to 7 to 6 to 5 because people are not able to correctly. So it becomes actually like an etiquette problem because the Lucid backed out and parked on the other side so that there was 3 next to each other so that the F-150 could charge. So we all had to talk to each other to figure this out. So who could
like
charge
the urinal.
Where? And there was
it's going to become this like unwritten rule of this is how you have to park.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
I'm really curious about the Magic Charger and how it works. So is it like there is one hose that is always in the charging thing, and when you hit the button, it attaches the adapter?
So when it's hanging in the new normal supercharging position when you arrive, most Tesla superchargers, it's just the normal cable.
Right.
And you just pop it out with the button and plug it into your car.
Yeah.
With this one, it's sitting in an adapter already.
Okay.
When you arrive. So when you unlock it with the normal Tesla, you just pop it out like normal. If you unlock it in the app with a non-Tesla,
the adapter also unlocks.
Keeps the adapter locked onto the head and it unlocks the adapter. And so when you pop it out, the adapter's on the cable. So that's how that's the retrofit that they came up with.
Is there no way to steal the adapter? Is it like locked on to the...
I didn't try. That's a really good question, actually. I guess, the pin that I unlocked was specifically to pop it out of the harness, I guess it's called. So I never tried to take it off the end. Okay. I assume you won't be able to.
I would hope so. Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of good that happened, I think, February 15th, which was actually only like 2 weeks ago, is that the Biden-Harris administration announced that new $7.5 billion EV charging plan. Mm-hmm. And in order to be eligible to be one of the chargers that's going to be on the road, you have to have 97% uptime.
Okay.
Which compared to our experience that we had on the road trip is like night and day.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because currently it's like terrible.
Yeah.
And Tesla chargers have like incredibly good uptime. So
I mean that whole bill, because that's the same bill that also basically had Tesla make this change, right? Because they weren't allowed to get funding from that bill or a bill previously similar to it unless they were
is Tesla
for
getting
other
funding
cars
from this bill?
I believe once they opened it up to
interesting,
not only their own company,
that makes sense.
They were allowed to start getting funding, which we covered a few months ago, I think. So that's cool. That means through some of these different EV laws we're having in the US now, we now have Tesla chargers that can charge non-Tesla cars and hopefully like way better
more
uptime.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they enforce that because I don't know how you can like just say you have 97% uptime. I don't know if they're going to have someone out there checking all the time.
Well, remember when we were on the road trip and the charger that Brandon and I went to that was broken, we started getting tweeted at by like the New York State Department of Electric Vehicles or something
because
like
they
that.
maintain it.
Yeah. And then they contacted Ford and got really mad at Ford. Yeah.
But that's what I suspect is going to keep happening. We all think it should be up 97% of the time, but who's going to actually do that?
Yeah.
They'll have to find some way to report in with it.
Probably monthly
Hopefully
or something.
It'll be better than previously, but I do think all the infrastructure should be ultimately getting better now that we're having more and more cars come out. Yeah. And now even if the people going to those chargers are now going to go to Tesla chargers more, they have even more incentive to try and keep up because they're even losing the revenue from that.
Right. It's an interesting choice, actually. If you are driving one of these vehicles, the choice of do you go to a Tesla one or a non-Tesla one is kind of interesting. My price per kilowatt was, I think, if you don't have an account, I think it was 50 cents per kilowatt, which is like competitive, but you can get cheaper at other chargers. But then you have to risk maybe the charger not being up or being broken. Or
do you
whatever.
know how much that is compared to charging a Tesla on it? Is it more?
I think it's slightly cheaper. It said 10 cents cheaper per kilowatt if you have an account. So I don't know. It's different per supercharger. You obviously have to check. I'll do the math in my video also on the autofocus channel so we can all see the difference.
Yeah.
When you say account real quick, do you mean just an account that you have to make to go? Or like, can I have a Tesla account without owning a Tesla?
You can have a Tesla account without owning a Tesla just so you can use the app.
And then,
but you won't necessarily have a membership, which I think is a monthly.
Oh, that was another thing we talked about. There was a membership that they were offering the last time we talked about this headline, who knows how many months ago, and probably the 8th time we talked about it, but there's a membership to get cheaper charging rates.
Yeah.
Can you be a member without owning a Tesla? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, we should figure that out.
But
That's
being a
interesting.
member made it 10 cents per kilowatt cheaper.
Okay.
So-
So if you wind up doing road trips through a Tesla charger a lot, even without a Tesla, it could potentially be worth it, but it's still pretty cheap to fill up, right?
Yeah. So total, I went from 30 to 85% on the Rivian, which is a pretty big battery. It's a 135 kilowatt hour battery, and that cost me $30, and it cost 30 minutes, so it was pretty solid. Here's one more twist to the end of the story. The F-150 Lightning charging port is on the front left, but it's kind of like back a little bit over the wheel, you know where the badge is?
Yeah.
And the cable was just barely long enough to actually plug in. So I was there. There was a YouTuber actually who was there who was testing this. He pulled his car up 1 inch from the stanchion
Oh my God.
to like almost hitting it
Oh,
to be
God.
able to stretch the cable taut all the way to like bend it around the flap because the flap blocks
comes
it.
out
And you have to
front.
go over the top of the flap, and it just barely worked.
Those Tesla hoses are really short.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
and that was in the spot
that
where
was
he's already using the wrong quote, the wrong charging port.
Yeah, yeah. So if that hadn't worked, we were going to try. I have video of the Lucid, which was like parked halfway out of one of the spots to work. And then I think they were going to swap after I left. So maybe his video will be up by the time this goes up. But like he was going to try swapping with the Lucid. It's just, there's going to have to be conversations at superchargers when 3 different types of cars show up with 3 different types of charging spots.
Do you think there's any chance they extend the cable?
I think that's harder.
The problem I see with it, if they don't do that though, is now. So I already was going to have the question of like, do we see this becoming an issue in super popular supercharging locations like on the West Coast where there already is a line? Like that's one thing with EVs that kind of sucks is if you're at a gas station line, everyone only takes 2 minutes. You're at a line for a charger and you need that charger, you're there
while.
a couple hours. So now if you have that position where one non-Tesla EV is in there and taking up 2 spots essentially,
Yeah.
you could be doubling or tripling that line very quickly.
Yep.
And I can't wait till the public freakout subreddit has like fights because an F-150 Lightning guy. Yeah, they're just like
Bolt.
fights at the Tesla supercharger. But
Yeah.
I feel like Tesla for their own customers needs to do something to make that.
That was interesting. So I'm really curious how they're going to roll this out. I think the ones that they've opened up so far are specifically some of the lowest use superchargers, just so they can see how it goes. Like when I got there at 9 in the morning or whatever, I was the only one there. There was one other Model 3 briefly before other people started showing up to try to test. And all the ones that are in our area were not on the map. And I wonder if they're going to just not do that for a while, just see how it goes with the non-highly used ones because of the types of things I just mentioned, which is like there are going to be people like crossing over, people like making spots unoptimized. And I don't think that's going to fly in the ones that have like 16 stalls that are all always full. So I think it's a wait and see type thing for Tesla, especially considering how that went. What else? We did pricing. How many chargers? Yeah, I think making the cable longer would have been a harder retrofit. I think.
Oh yeah, it's not even a retrofit at that
it's
point.
like
It's just
rebuilding.
like fully rebuilding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say though, if they do get the funding to make new chargers and they make a lot of new chargers, they should just try to figure out how to make the cable longer from the
They
get-go.
have to, I think.
Yeah.
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 It's also, doesn't it kind of feel like the Apple effect where it's like when they opened up FaceTime for Android, it was like, yeah, we enabled it for you, but like, in order to get the best experience, you need one of our phones.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing to talk about because that might potentially be like, it's not only that, it's like we did it and we can get a lot of funding because we did it, but it's not the best.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think and I'm usually pretty hard on Tesla. I don't think that's really, I think they're getting the funding. I do think they will try and make it a better experience for everyone, mostly because if they don't, they're screwing over their own customer base.
Right. They need to find a way, ideally, to make it available for more cars and also not make it worse for Teslas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like an iMessage group chat where everyone's blue bubbles and then suddenly the green bubble shows up and screws up everything. It's like the same thing. Like when an F-150 Lightning shows up, it just ruins the optimization that was happening there. And I do feel like Tesla at least thinks about that. That's got to be something they have in the back of their head.
I was expecting them to do like, if it's a 10 charger, what do you call them? Just a supercharger, a station? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Like a 10 charger station, like 2 of them have the retrofit, but all of them were good.
Yeah.
That's great. I would only assume they would try and make a way to like push Teslas to the front of the line for it, but
it's possible that to get the funding, they need all of them to be that way.
Potentially.
Like all new chargers or all new updated chargers.
Interesting. Because this was an existing charger that was like, they added the retrofit to make it compatible. I imagine new chargers will also have the Magic Dock.
That could just be to test it to see how it's going.
I really think it's a wait and see it. I think it's a test. I'm just going to enable it for the dozen that have it now and like see how it goes. Our videos will go up. They'll see the PR. They'll see how the conversations go. We'll take it from there.
Yeah.
But that was my morning.
One last question.
Yeah.
When the Teslas started showing up, were they like, what is happening? Do they think like people were? Did you talk to any of them?
I talked to all of them. Yeah. One of them was he was watching both of our like 2 of us are YouTubers and he's watched both of our videos.
Oh, really?
So he was like charging in a Model 3 and was like, I just got this the other day. Like this is crazy. You're all charging here. But yeah, they just backed in and parked like sort of normal. What's funny is I was going to mention there used to be supercharger etiquette specifically because at V2 superchargers, stalls next to each other share the same power source.
Yeah.
And so if there's 10 stalls, it's like urinal etiquette.
Yeah.
Do not charge next to me.
I love it.
Do not charge next to me because you're going to cut my charge time in half for no reason. Charge over there, please. Now with V3 superchargers, that's solved. Everyone gets full power. But now you have this new problem. So we'll see.
Interesting.
Dang.
We'll see. Keep an eye on that. The full video is on the Autofocus channel for sure by the time this is out. So
And
we'll see.
Who's the other YouTuber that has the F-150 stuff?
Let me find his name.
Just in case anyone wants a more in-depth
Yeah.
F-150. I like that you both
State
brought
of Charge.
State of Charge.
State of Charge.
Cool.
Also a video from the Out of Spec channel. He like last night, as soon as it showed up on the app, drove up there and charged. So like people are testing it readily.
Wow.
It's great. So yeah.
When I say metal though, like what's the name of it?
I'm looking it up.
Because it's not like bronze, silver.
Or I'm
yeah. I mean like because if it's at a Delta.
I'm either Guardian 5 or Crusader 1.
I was gonna say like if it's the Delta E of less than 1 for perfect color accuracy, you'd be like, oh, so you can make sure that bronze badge on your profile is perfect
bronze.
accuracy.
Harold, baby. Harold. No, I'm immortal forever.
Thanks for watching.
That's why I sleep in the casket.